Lucas Davis wasn't born rich. He didn't get lucky. But today, he wakes up and chooses what he wants to do. Work, travel, create. He's got time, he's got money, and the rarest of all, he's got peace. But 3 years ago, he could barely pay rent. He barely slept, maxed out his credit card. And the worst part, he smiled on the outside while falling apart on the inside. The turning point didn't come from a new job or a lucky break. It came from a moment, one night, one choice, and one rule, simple, almost stupid. But he followed it with such discipline, it changed everything. This is the story of how Lucas went from rock bottom to living like the top 1%. And what he discovered along the way will make you question everything you've been taught about money, success, and freedom. But I have to warn you, if you watch until the end, your life might change too. It was around 1:47 a.m. when Lucas Davis got out of bed. His body was begging for sleep, but his mind wouldn't shut off. Another bill was overdue. His credit card was maxed out, and he just couldn't understand how his paycheck, which hit on the 5th, was already gone before the 20th. He walked into the kitchen, heated up some coffee, and sat down on the couch with his phone in hand. Almost by instinct, he opened his banking app. But that night, something was different. For the first time, he didn't just glance at the balance. He dove deep, line by line. And the more he read, the more he realized the issue wasn't how much he made. It was how much he let slip through the cracks, subscriptions he didn't even use. Impulse buys, lunches out just because he was in a rush. And the most dangerous of all, the total lack of a plan. Every cent was going out like a soldier with no commander. And the result was pure chaos. That ordinary night, Lucas had his wake-up call. He realized he was living like most people, spending first, reacting later. While browsing the internet, he came across something that looked almost laughably simple, the 25-50-15-10 rule, a way to split his money into fixed blocks, each with a purpose. No magic formula, no get-rich-quick promise, just logic 25% for growth, money that works for you, investments, knowledge, assets 50% for needs, the basics to live with dignity but no excess, 15% for safety, an emergency cushion, a shield for storms, 10% for freedom, to live, to breathe, to give, to travel, to feel human. Lucas paused. Read it again. It made way too much sense to ignore. And more importantly, it didn't depend on anyone else. It was something he could start right then, with what little he had. For the first time, he felt like he had direction, a plan, a path, and it wasn't easy. But it was doable, because the difference between those who stay stuck and those who break free starts with one simple word, enough. And that night, Lucas said his enough. Lucas Davis didn't turn his life around overnight. He didn't win the lottery, go viral online, or come up with $1 million idea in the shower. What he did was way less glamorous, but way more powerful. He decided to apply the rule. Every month, without fail, he started with what he called his growth money, the 25% that now went straight into his future. At first, it was a small amount, barely enough to feel like it mattered, but was about the habit. With that money, he bought his first book on investing. Then a course on digital marketing. Later, he started putting a portion into an automated investment account. It wasn't about always getting it right. It was about always building. The next 50% went to the essentials: rent, food, transportation. He realized that a lot of his spending came from trying to fill the void that comes from a lack of purpose. Once the plan was in place, consumption lost its appeal. The next 15% he called his shield, his emergency fund. At first, it felt silly to save for something that might never happen. But when his car broke down and he didn't need to put it on a credit card, he understood the value of security. And the last 10%, he used it to live: a dinner with his parents, a weekend in another city, an anonymous donation, a book just for fun. It reminded him that freedom isn't just stability, it's also lightness. Every month, on payday, the money was split and sent to different accounts. He didn't see the money sitting in the main account. There was no temptation to resist because temptation didn't exist anymore. Over time, the 25% started to pay off. A small investment grew. A new client came in, a side income was born. What seemed like small change at the beginning was now the engine driving everything forward. That's when Lucas realized wealth isn't an amount. It's a behavior, a mindset, a way of treating what you have. And surprisingly, it's something anyone can build. The 25-50-15-10 rule wasn't magic, but for him it was freedom. On the outside, nothing seemed to have changed in Lucas Davis's life. He still lived in the same apartment, took the same bus, ate at the same cheap corner diner, but something inside him was different. That constant feeling of being chased by time and money had faded. For the first time in years, Lucas felt like he was moving forward. The results started showing up quietly, but it wasn't easy, not even close. Lucas realized that discipline has a price, and it's steep. There were months when his paycheck barely stretched, when the urge to spend hit hard. Social media was full of trips, parties, shopping sprees, lives that seemed way more fun than his. He felt the temptation, that old thought, just this month. But he remembered why he started, took a deep breath, and stayed on track. Discipline started to bring small wins, an investment that paid off more than expected, an online course that led to extra income, a job interview he nailed thanks to a skill he'd learned with his 25% fund. And that's when he understood something deep. Real wealth isn't having a lot, it's having control, emotional control, control over your impulses, control over your direction. Lucas also learned that investing doesn't matter if you're always at the edge. That growth needs a solid foundation. That financial peace doesn't come from how much you collect, but from how much you can hold on to, even on bad days. And when those bad days came, he was ready. The emergency fund was there. His budget already accounted for surprises. The 15% that once seemed like overkill was now his shield against chaos. That's when he realized discipline isn't rigidity. It's organized freedom. It wasn't about having a lot. It was about owing nothing, not to the bank, not to anxiety, not to next month's paycheck. That was Lucas Davis's new kind of wealth. Peace, clarity, and the certainty that even with little, he was on the right path. 3 years after that quiet night on the couch, Lucas Davis woke up on a Saturday with no alarm clock. He took his time making coffee, opened his investment app, and smiled. The number was higher than he expected, but that wasn't the point. What mattered was the feeling of peace. Lucas hadn't become a millionaire. He still lived in a simple place, but he owned something most people spend their whole lives chasing: freedom. Today, if he lost his job, he'd be stable for months. If he wanted to travel, he could. If he wanted to say no, he could too. Money stopped being a prison and became a tool, and that is priceless. And it wasn't about luck. It was about having a plan, being consistent, being patient. It was about saying no to short-term temptation so he could say yes to a real life. Lucas realized the world was full of people just like him, tired, lost, in debt. Good people who work hard but never taste freedom. And all because they never stopped to ask themselves, is there another way? The answer, he learned, is yes. Lucas kept learning. Because freedom isn't a destination, it's a lifestyle. It's waking up every day and making conscious choices. It's knowing you don't need much, just control, clarity, and courage. Now he understood why so many rich people still feel empty, and why so many simple people are truly happy. Freedom doesn't come from what you have. It comes from how little you need to feel complete. And Lucas learned to need less, to live more. I split my money, then I split my fears, and finally I shared my vision with time. The rest came along the way. The Lucas Davis of today still carries the wear of the past, but now he also carries pride, because he knows it was in those hard days, in the quiet choices, that he built everything he lives now. And if there's one thing he wishes you knew, it's this: you don't need more money, you need a decision, a rule, a first step, because true freedom starts in the invisible.